Hello and welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Device podcast, where we explore the life defining moments that shape careers within the medical device industry. We are particularly interested in understanding how people's personal experiences, challenges, or pivotal events influence professional journeys. And as we progress through the conversation, we will eventually land on the question: what is the one defining moment or experience that changed everything and set you on the path that you're on to today? Today's guest is the Senior Director of Regulatory Affairs at BD. Her career has taken her from R&D at Medtronic to consulting across Asia and now leading a global team at one of the biggest names in medtech. But what really stands out are the moments that shaped how she leads. Walking away from corporate life to start over in Hong Kong, a personal loss that completely transformed and reframed her outlook, and the decision to build a career defined by joy and authenticity instead of titles. This conversation will dive into those pivotal moments and the lessons they hold for anyone trying to find purpose without feeling burnt out. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Tara Turney. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Nathan. It is fantastic to be here, and I'm really excited for this conversation.
Mm.
Welcome to Tara. And as we always start on this podcast, let's go back to the beginning. So if you just tell us a bit about where your story began.
Absolutely. Thanks, Duncan. I would have to say my story did not begin in any real bang or unusual way. I grew up on the West Coast in the Seattle area back in the 80s. Everyone kind of had free reign to go and have fun and be a kid. And I spent an awful lot of time getting into fantastic amounts of trouble with my various friends over the years. I played soccer almost like a religion for me. For you guys, football. But I started that at a very young age. And in terms of what really centered my childhood, it was the constant and consistency of playing soccer, being with my friends. From an early age, I knew I wanted to be part of teams. I wanted to be in science fields. I was very much obsessed with wanting to actually go into marine biology. Turns out you need to actually have a love of swimming in order to study certain things, whereas I won't put my face in the water voluntarily. So that definitely pivoted a lot of my science outlook as I got older and really shaped me into wanting to get into spaces where I could help the environment, help animals and those around me, minus ever having to get in the water. But I spent an awful lot of time just outside camping, hiking. I grew up in the mountains of the Seattle area. So you've got Mount Rainier. If you have ever seen pictures of Seattle, that's kind of the classic one. So I grew up out in that area, hiking, just playing soccer, and really enjoying being a kid. Um, when I was a teenager, I ended up moving to the Midwest, into Minnesota, actually, which really changed some of the trajectory of my soccer playing, and that you don't play soccer year round when you are covered in snow. So that absolutely shaped my love of other sports into learning how to do, things like skiing and ice skating, things that were a little more cold weather friendly. And I ended up staying in Minnesota and Wisconsin area for college and ultimately, worked my way into the medical device industry in that area because Medtronic, as you noted, that's where I started my career. And that happens to be headquartered in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So just kind of worked my way across the top of the US, eventually landing in Boston with some detours to Hong Kong. And Boston is where I sit now.
There you go. That was an entire life in less than 5 minutes.
I mean, like I said, it's not super exciting. Could do it condensed.
So we speak to a lot of guests that have a scientific or engineering background, and it's early exposure to something or because of someone, whether it's a teacher, a parent, something like that. So can you pinpoint any early influences that kind of put you on this path of interest?
For me, it was being able to spend time at the ocean as a kid. We didn't live terribly far from it. It's a couple-hour drive to get to the actual ocean, but growing up on the Puget Sound and being able to spend time on the water and legitimately see, for me, it was seeing orcas swimming along the coastline, which you could absolutely see from the shores around Seattle and the Puget Sound area. That just immediately made me go, "Oh, I want to be there. I want to be out in the water. I want to be part of that world." And as I grew older and saw the damage that humans can do to
Mm.
each other, to the world, it really started to morph into I want to have a career where I can help and I can be part of the solution. So my ultimate degrees are in biology, which is perfect for medical devices, except the background is that I didn't actually focus on human biology. I actually focused on fisheries science and management and ended up spending time working on boats in the college years and was able to enjoy that turning point of loving the water and wanting to protect it and turning it into something that I spent a good amount of time learning how to do professionally.
So you're a product of your environment, literally.
Very much so, very much so. And still to this day, I go back to Seattle and go hiking all the time and get out to that area and make sure that, I'm still kind of connecting to where my roots are, which
Yeah.
very much is, the waters and mountains of that environment.
And do you have a family of your own? Have you got children?
I do. I actually have a 10-year-old daughter, so she went with me on this year's trip and has spent some time hiking out there too. So
Yeah.
she's it's a lot of fun to introduce her to those things.
Because I think about the childhood that I had and where I grew up, and similar to Nathan, and now living in London, I've lived in London for 12 years and will likely start a family here. And you then start to think, well, what's this going to be like to raise a family versus the experience that I had? So have you taken things from your own upbringing and tried to implement that into now raising your own children?
I would love to say yes, but I actually had my daughter when I was in Hong Kong, so
Ah,
it was a very different experience no matter what,
Yeah.
having her there versus here, separated from family and friends. It was, probably very different from most people's experience and what you think of starting a family will be like. My mom did come out and was able to spend time out there, but it's been a lot of implementing lessons in life as opposed to recreating specific childhood experiences, but more finding the space to allow her to find her journey with that type of guidance. And now that we're back in the US and she's older and it's just easier to go and do all the things, she's been able to go back out west with me multiple times to go hiking and get out there and get on the water. So she's been able to go out and see orcas on her own. She actually saw quite a few of them this last trip. So it's been wonderful to see her have some of those same experiences just at a much older age than I was when I first did it.
hmm.
There's no one right way or right place to have a family, though. No matter what you plan, just assume it's gonna get flipped up on its head and you'll be fine.
Okay, noted.
So, what we find with these conversations is the career is influenced by personal situations, turning points, pivotal events. Maybe when those things happen, you don't realize it's a point until you look back. Someone said to us the other day on here, you can't connect the dots looking forward. It's only when you look back. So, thinking about R&D Medtronic to where you are now, are there any key moments, turning points that have influenced the decisions you've made, but also the way that you work?
Absolutely, and so I'll take a little bit of a step back to childhood a little bit, but the kind of key moment that shaped the early part of my career was looking at my mother and my family situation and having the realization that I never once want to be in a situation where I'm reliant on someone else for my stability, for my security, for my financial ability to take care of myself. To level set, that shaped the entire first part of my career, being just incredibly driven. I had a career bucket list of I will do X, Y, and Z, director by 40, office with a window, like little things and big things that were very much, I'm just going to go out and make it all happen. And that really drove me to a level of intensity that is not only not sustainable, it's not necessarily healthy, but was easier to do when I didn't have a child. I didn't have these other kind of pressures in my life. I was still able to go have fun while doing all the things, working myself into the ground, like, writing my first 510K submission for the US FDA at my brother's high school graduation and staying up all night to get it done because I was not going to take PTO. That's not what I do. So I lived this life of just incredible intensity, which worked out great. Like my career grew really, really well. I had friends that were all doing the same thing. It was a mindset of achievement. And then when my daughter was about 2, I was in Singapore for a weekend with her, and at that point in time, one of my best friends had found out a couple months earlier that she had stage 4 cancer, which is not something a 35-year-old woman should ever find out, much less find out the week after she got married. Yeah, definitely not the greatest of news. She'd been sick for a few months, and people weren't listening to her. She was going to the doctor like, "Oh, you're anemic. Here's some red blood infusion. Oh, you're stressed out. Just you need to take a break." Not helpful at all. And
Mm.
she spent months doing that, trying to find someone to listen to her. And finally someone did. And at that point, it was far too late. So I was in Singapore with my daughter and got the call from my best friend's wife that, she doesn't have much time left. So I'm like going from Singapore back to Hong Kong, dropping off my daughter with childcare, jumping on a flight back to Boston via Newark. And when I landed in Newark, I got a phone call from actually one of my previous bosses, who is a mentor and friend to this day, letting me know that she had passed while I was en route. Not a great scene for a variety of reasons. You're on a tin can for 16 hours, you smell like it, you look like it, and then you're also, a blubbering mess as you then try to go to customs and immigration, where, of course, the computers were down in Newark, and I was at the front of the line trying to hold it together, not doing a great job. So looking like a crazy woman, trying not to cry, failing miserably, all while knowing that I was too late. But I got home, I saw my friends, my family, and I did not get to say goodbye. And to this day, people will say, well, she knew you were on the way and didn't want you to see her like that. Great, fine, and dandy. But it's still, as someone in my mid 30s at that point, losing someone who was also in their mid 30s, just got married, like, not an acceptable thing.
Mm.
No one should die that young. No one should have been ignored for months and not have access to someone who will listen to genuine medical complaints, which is, I think we all know, is a story of so many women within just the global healthcare sphere where women are not listened to.
Mhm.
It's gotten better. At least my experiences have gotten better. I also advocate for myself like nobody's business now. So I don't know that how much of that is me versus actual conditions getting better, but that shouldn't have happened. She should not have died. When I got home, and I would love to say, that I had this immediate switch of going, well, now I'm going to make all these changes in my life. And I did. But I spent a long time just being solidly angry. Angry at the world, angry at my job, angry at just the planet for existing in the way that it did. So the journey to where I'm at now was not an overnight thing. It wasn't like I woke up one day and went, well, now I'm going to make all these changes because a life without joy is not one worth living. It was more of a gradual realization, especially, as my daughter got older and she watched how hard I worked and didn't necessarily see the why I
Mm.
was doing it, and realizing that in no world should I have watched my best friend get so sick and at the start of, really her adult life, no longer be with us, that I shouldn't be spending so much time just achieving. And I was also really close to checking off everything on my career bucket list too, which brought me to a point of, well, why am I doing this?
Mm.
What
Mm.
on earth is the flipping point? And I started realizing the point is actually exactly how my best friend lived every day of her life, which was just with this insane amount of joy. She brought joy and life to everything she did. And we met in the medical device industry. She was a labeling specialist. There was no reason that if she couldn't have that everyday joy in this type of intense field where you need to have some seriousness to what we're doing, there's no reason why you can't have that serious job and not have joy and have the ability to take yourself seriously when needed, but also not, and realize that if you're just showing up every day without joy, why bother? Why are you there? What are you doing? So I really started to make some changes and be more authentically myself, less driven, less timeline focused, let's get it done, and cracking jokes in meetings, being the person that I am without the pressure to perform at a different level, which really kind of unlocked, how I lead, how my teams view me. It's taken what I think, was previously being a good manager, really good at coaching, good at mentoring, good at getting things done, to being someone that everyone on my team can trust, that people on other teams can trust, that know that if I give feedback, it's always going to come from a place of good, a place of kindness, a place of wanting people to be better at their jobs because they want to be better, not because they are failing in some way or it's some sort of character flaw to not be perfect. And I even now kind of coach, especially my teams when we're trying to figure out like, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be in the next 5 years? Which is the worst question in all interviews of all history. Like, who knows? I want to be here. I want to be doing something. I want to be employed. But I start asking people, what during the day brings you joy? What do you walk away from your day going, oh, I still have energy to live a life after work, as opposed to I've worked all day and now what I have energy for is curling up in the fetal position on my couch, which that's going to happen some days regardless. But how do you build a life where your work and your job and what you're spending your days doing is giving you the energy to go do more and be more and have joy left over for your family
Mm,
so you're not just running nonstop without a goal in mind and doing it for reasons you don't know or understand.
mm,
So for me, that's really looked like, changing my career and where I've been focusing in terms of technology to look at women's health. How do we start actually changing things for them? Getting more involved in regulatory policy and looking at how the decisions we make at just a governmental level change access to healthcare, allow for technologies to be better, to get into the hands of patients sooner and give them the care that they need, as well as trying to just amplify women's voices, amplify the voices of whether it's people that work for me or others around me, but making sure that people are able to speak their stories in a way that is authentic and joyful and not pushed to the side at work. We spend so much time there. You should be able to actually show up, be yourself. It's serious work. It doesn't mean we have to be serious all day. It means we need to know when you've got to sit down and make it happen and when you can crack a few jokes and make sure everyone understands that, yeah, we're here to work, but we're not here to pretend that we're not going to have a little bit of fun with it too.
and what timeline was from obviously finding the news, feeling angry, to making
Um,
making changes? 'Cause I think the important point to make here, as you said, this wasn't an overnight thing, and someone could be sat here right now in a situation where they can't see a way out. But yeah, what is that time period?
I say it took me probably about 3 years to get from a place of her passing, working through just the initial shock. Even though we knew it was coming, we knew that's how it was going to end. She was diagnosed on Halloween of 2016 and was gone by mid-March. So it was a handful of months where we knew she was going to pass, but it took a heck of a lot longer to work past that than I would have thought. I've lost people before, but not like that. Not in a
Mm,
way that just was a gut punch that some days now, it's been almost 10 years in the grand scheme of things. Some days it stops me short and I can't catch my breath. So the grief took a long time. The anger, that took like probably 3 or 4 years to stop letting that anger kind of color some of how I approach things where it's just like was really my daughter getting older and especially COVID, having her seeing me working and working without breaks, working without bothering to stop for eating because all I was just mission focused, to-do list focused. And that's kind of how I channeled my what on earth are we doing on this planet? I just went even deeper into my achievement and intensity stage, we'll say. But
mm,
having her watch me do that and realizing I don't want her to be chained to a laptop every single second of every single day when her, games as a toddler were like, "Oh, I'm pretending to be mom and I've got my fake keyboard and using, her fake cup of coffee," which I can't say I've ever given up the coffee and will not. I did grow up in Seattle, but
mm,
it really made me go, I can't have her seeing me be this way, even though I was a great manager. I was achieving everything I needed to do. There's so much more to life. And
mm,
I don't want her to miss out on all the awesome things in life. by thinking that you have to, by not seeing the other options and seeing other choices and how to actually, I don't want to say live a balanced life because I think work life balance is kind of an unachievable thing, but more of a work life alignment where you're spending your
Hmm.
time and your energy and your focus on the places that matter. Sometimes that might be, a 12-hour workday because what you were doing is so impactful and it's so aligned with where you want to spend your energy. Some days that, for me is leaving at 4:30 and taking my daughter over to soccer because now she's playing soccer and we are sharing that in this next stage of life. So I'm absolutely spending more time in the car getting her to soccer, teaching her how to do, all the things that I used to do when I was her age. So it's finding that alignment with your focus, but it was not a quick journey. It was definitely not. And it was a lot of self-reflection of going, I can do better. And even when I got to a stage of feeling better about life and being healthier in general with it, it's still an awful lot of self-reflection and self-awareness on where can I be better and where can I find places where I can share that with the people that work for me and the people that work around me too. So it's not just them seeing me doing less, but
Mm.
doing more mindfully, which
Hmm.
is a very different thing than just doing less.
Hmm.
Yeah, because if you think back to the kind of two turning points that you've mentioned, they almost contradict each other. The first one is do more,
Yep.
and actually, that's obviously ruled the way you've lived your life, and then all of a sudden, kind of reversed, which is interesting. You've mentioned obviously soccer for you and for your daughter. Who's the role model? Who you are following in that regard?
Oh, from a soccer perspective, I mean, Megan Rapinoe is always kind of like the person of recent years. She's been pretty fantastic. And my daughter really just started playing a lot this year. So I actually, there's a Manchester United game in a couple weeks here that I saw last
Boo.
night while watching American football on TV. It's like, oh, I should bookmark that and have her sit down and watch some real soccer. She's still at the stage of they're chasing the ball, and I'm sitting there going, oh, please play a position, like any position, just pick one and try it. She's a goalie right now, so it's actually making my life a little bit easier as there's a pretty discreet position that comes with goalie.
Nice.
Yeah, but
Yeah. So with the kind of journey that you've had, taking into account the two kind of
mhm.
major turning points in your life, is there any specific lessons in there that come straight to your mind when you think about the two combined?
I would say the specific lessons that I have learned, there's been a few. The one that I think cannot be overshadowed is that this type of journey and transformation and success can only be done if you have the support of strong mentorship around you. So I have been incredibly fortunate throughout all this journey that I've had mentors who one of them not only do I, still consider to be a friend to this day, she was actually the first manager I had that really gave me feedback of, "Hey, you could do better." I was so used to being the best at everything I did because of that intensity, that when I first got feedback of, "Oh, here's all the things I would do differently," it completely floored me and blew me away. I ended up following her into consulting. She's also the one who gave me the news that my best friend Kate had passed, and is still someone I consider to be a friend to this day. But having the mentors around you that will be honest with you so someone else can call you on your bullshit, that is critical because pulling yourself out of that sort of thing, especially to your point, it was kind of a complete 180 in how I thought about my approach to life. Not that I don't still get it all done, I absolutely do, but I refuse to get lost in it and not find the places of joy. Um, but having strong people around you that will give you that honest feedback will help you when you can't see it for yourself because it is so difficult, to pull yourself outside of your own BS, I'll say, and see the forest for the trees. You need to have those people around you that are willing to be honest with you and help you on that journey. I've been very fortunate throughout my career. I've had mentors at different points that gave me exactly what I needed, even to this day. So huge shout out to Tracy, Pam, and Dan. Like they've all at different points in my career have been just absolutely instrumental in seriously just calling me on my own bullshit.
It's helpful to have, and we've had
Mhm.
guests talk about having a personal board of directors, and you've got people for seasons, reasons, and lifetimes. And I think it's a really nice way of looking at, in any situation, who could you pick up the phone to, and you would act as that person for other people as well, because you can't do it all alone, as much as sometimes you think you can. I just wanted to touch on how you manage your mental health, and particularly in that 3-year period, because I think if you were at the start of that time, at the loss of your friend Kate, if you'd have known it would have taken you 3 years to get through that, that would have felt like an incredibly long time. And looking back, you can say, I went through that transformation in 3 years. But that is a long time, feeling
Mhm.
angry, feeling lots of emotions while still having to show up as a partner, as a parent, as a leader. So were you doing anything, maybe subconsciously, and when you reflect on it, were there anything that you were doing to manage your mental health and well-being? Was there any releases? Was there any tools?
Um, realistically, my mental health during that period was absolute trash. Not gonna sugarcoat that one. It was very challenging. I was at a toddler at the time too, living overseas.
Mm,
So I did have friends that I had made there that were a great support group across, all different age ranges, different jobs. A lot of them were trailing spouses who didn't have jobs. Some of them, own their own businesses in Hong Kong. So I had a very eclectic mix of friends that I could go and, I will say, escape with, because though they were good friends, they weren't necessarily the friends where you go and dump everything on. They were all fairly new. I'd only lived there for a few years. Um, the biggest thing, and at the time it almost felt like a failure, but the biggest thing that ended up changing it is moving back to the States and realizing that as much as I wanted to live a life less ordinary, where I said yes to every opportunity that came my way, I needed to be closer to home where the flight to get back when someone needed me wasn't too long.
hmm
It could still be a flight, and I live very far away from most of my family, but it couldn't be that long. I needed to be able to get there when someone needed me within, literally within 12 hours was kind of my calculus, and there was no way to do that from Hong Kong.
mm,
Um, so making that change and realizing what I needed for myself was not to be, Miss Independent all the time, but to actually recognize that I needed to be close enough where my friends had access to me, where my family had access to me, without it being, a 12-hour time difference or me not being able to get there in time. That change did more for my mental health because I actually felt like I was taking control of what I needed, even if it felt like a failure on what I had done
hmm
in terms of packing up and moving and saying yes to all the opportunities all the time, which is always what I've done. I'll say yes to pretty much any opportunity that comes my way because I always go, well, you've got a backup plan. You can bail in 2 years if this job doesn't work. You can move somewhere else in a couple of years. There's always ability to change your mind, but recognizing that it wasn't a failure to say I've got to be closer to the people that make me who I am,
hmm
that was where it really started to feel okay to change and where the transformation started. And it was still a long journey.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that. So I lost my dad in October of last year, um, and my wife and I went away to South America for just short of 6 months, from January to June. And did I feel like I was dealing with the grief when I was away? I felt like I was, but I was actually just distracting myself with a lot of incredible experiences and a like new thing to do every single day. And then it was coming home in the summer and then thinking, right, I'm here now. I'm almost like back in real life. I have to face this head on, but I'm at home. I've got my friends around me. I've got my family around me. I need to be a support to them as well because they're dealing with the same thing. But it was actually just slowing down and just being around those people. As it's been difficult. I feel like I'm now
Mhm,
dealing with the grief, whereas before I was kind of just burying it. And it's been a difficult summer and few months since then. But actually, I think in the long run, it's put me in an environment where I'm putting in better habits and actually dealing with it.
mhm.
And being close to home has definitely helped that. So again, it's just the environment, isn't it? Just put yourself in a kind environment. So
Yeah.
in terms of navigating challenges and advice that you would give to anyone that is perhaps facing something similar or just generally a pivotal moment, we're going back to key lessons again. Is there anything that you would say you would give as advice to somebody that's facing a struggle at the moment?
Well, to an extent, I think you really just touched on it. A lot of it is let yourself feel it. The only way through it is literally going through it. And if
Hmm.
you find ways to bury it, to not deal with it, it's still going to be there later. Even if you pack it away for as long as possible, that's when it comes out when you really don't need it to. When you're in stressful situations and you get a flash of whatever, whether it's anxiety or just a wave of a memory or something, if you haven't given yourself the time and the tools to have dealt with it, it's still going to be there coming back, just waiting to gut punch you.
Hmm.
You have to take the time to go through it, and there's no shame in that, and there's definitely not shame in being honest about it, including in a workspace, and I try to make sure that I am a very safe space for anyone on my team or even people not on my team to be able to call me and say, "Here is what I'm going through. I just need someone to listen." And I will definitely ask people on my team too. Do you need to be hugged, heard, or given advice to? Like, what do you need in this moment? But give yourself the space to work through it. Tell people what you need or say, I don't know what I need. Start with that because you have to work through it.
Yeah.
I'm
It's great
gonna
to go out and get new
I'm gonna take
experiences,
that.
though.
I'm gonna take that line. I think I need to implement that.
Go for it.
I'm just straight to advice, not actually asking the person what they need. So
And sometimes it's just a hug.
Yeah, sometimes you need to have someone witness it with you. So you're not alone feeling like you are just out there floating on the sea by yourself. There is absolutely no shame in saying I need something. And there's also no shame in saying I don't know what I need because other people can help you work through that. And whether you are going through something professionally or personally, finding those people where you have the ability to use them as sounding boards, to have those people in your corner. Um, and if they're people at work too and you're having a bad day, I will be absolutely honest with my team some days like, I've got a migraine or, this day has gone to absolute shite. Um, Last week, even, there was a day going not so well, and I legitimately messaged one of the amazing women who works for me and said, "I need a milkshake." Bless her, she actually DoorDashed milkshakes to our office for our one-on-one later, and it made the day so much better. So there's no shame in even with people that work for you and just saying, "I am not doing okay right now." There's no reason to pretend that we're all doing okay, we're human.
Yeah.
The
Mm.
world is not doing okay right now in so many ways, and pretending that it is, so we can send out another email is disingenuous at best and harmful at worst. So,
Hmm.
making sure you give the space to be human and go through it, whatever it is, and have those people in your corner around you, being honest with them so they can be honest with you, it's a game changer. And it allows you to, again, bring that joy into what you do because you're not having to hide any emotion. You're still showing up professionally. You're still showing up in a way that aligns with your leadership and aligns with the job and the work that you're doing. I think I've already said, but it's serious work. We don't have to be serious every single moment of the day, but you do need to be able to show up in a way that is healthy and supportive and gets your job done because we're, all here to do that too. But there are ways to do it and make sure that you are showing up in the best version of yourself, not just for your job, but also for the people that look to you for guidance. Sometimes that's your child, sometimes it's a coworker, sometimes it's your neighbor across the street who looks at you every day going, "Is it garbage day? Have they put their garbage cans out?" 100% I am that person. Always looking like, "Huh, did my neighbor put their garbage out? Oh, they did. I got to get that done." Like, find your people and get them in your corner. They're going to be happy to be there because they need people in their corner too.
Love that.
and without asking the what's your 5-year plan question, what is in store for the sort of short to medium term for Tara? Whether that's professionally, personally, what's on the horizon, do you think?
So personally, it would be continuing to show up in the spaces that my daughter needs me to show up in. That's kind of my North Star through everything. She's an amazing kid. She also happens to be dyslexic, and goes to a special school that is blissfully very close to my house for dyslexia and for um, literature education and literacy education. It's definitely something that I spend a lot of time making sure that she is getting what she needs, so she's never held back by challenges with reading and language, and thankfully, she's a rock star at managing it, but that is something that I will continue to spend a ton of time with, getting her launched so where she is successful, and knows how to manage the various disabilities that come with dyslexia, which is really more just that great minds think differently as opposed to any true disadvantage. But getting her the support she needs is my everyday North Star. And professionally, the things that bring me the most joy in what I do, as much as I love regulatory and as much as that is something I've been doing for over 20 years now, it's the people on my teams. I love managing large organizations, building high functioning teams, and doing a lot of coaching and mentoring. So I'm considering getting certified as an executive coach. I might go do that. I might take the plunge and go get a JD and go get my law degree in regulatory law and public health policy. I'm not entirely sure. At this point, I've checked off all but one thing on my career bucket list, so now I need to start making a new list for the second half of my career and seeing where that takes me, but it'll always be people focused and making sure that I am able to have an organization around me, whether it's one that I'm just helping guide or one that's actually working for me, where I'm helping them get to where they want to be. That will always be where I land, regardless of what the title is.
And thinking about the industry specifically, what excites you about the future of it? Where do you think this is going?
I mean, the nice thing about regulatory is that it's always ever changing. There's always going to be a new regulation. There's always going to be a new country putting out regulations. So if you have a love of learning, regulatory is definitely the place to be. What I think gets me most excited at this stage is really seeing some of the focus on women's health that actually is coming through different regulations, whether it's some of the clinical trial diversity that the FDA had been looking at through the last administration and trying to make sure there is diversity of gender, of sexuality, diversity of ethnicity, socioeconomic diversity, having all of that represented in our clinical trials, I think, is something that really excites me because access to healthcare should be for absolutely everybody. And making sure that we are developing products in a way that honors the diversity of the people that we aim to serve. That to me is crucial. So seeing more government agencies get on board with that and actually developing guidance and expectations around that, that gets me out of bed every day because that is where you start to make true global access changes is by developing the products and getting them on the market that actually do serve everyone as opposed to only work for a select few.
Brilliant. Well, that brings the conversation to a close. So I'm very grateful for you joining us today, Tara, and sharing your journey. We'd like to ask our listeners to like, subscribe, and share this episode. And we will be back next week with another guest on Beyond the Device. So, Tara, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you both for having me. This was fantastic.